What is the coolest thing you have done by accident? First bartending shift ever. Picked up a bottle of fairly expensive liquor, Patronaggio, slipped from my hand. Held out my foot to slow the fall of the bottle, to lessen the spread of shattered glass. And the bottle ended up resting on my outstretched foot completely unharmed. The one customer that was there, slow opening shift, saw the whole thing and freaked out. Thinking I've been bartending for decades. I've never felt prouder of my reflexes. Scored a goal in a soccer game. I'm lousy at sports. Always have been. But, in 7th grade, I signed up for a lunch break soccer tournament. As expected, I was awful. All I could do was run around and get in the way of the opposing team. But one day, I was near the goal defended by the other team, while nearly all the other players were heading back from the other end of the field. One of my teammates kicked the ball hard in my direction. Someone yelled my name. I saw the ball. I put up my hands to block it. Remember that hands aren't allowed in soccer. And ducked. The ball hit my head and bounced straight toward and into the goal. Much to everyone's utter amazement. We won that game. I never played soccer again. High school. Walked by two kids in the hallway. Kid 1 playfully threw water bottle at Kid 2's back. Just as we passed each other, the bottle bounced off, and I caught it with my hand without looking, or even turning my head. And I just had a blank nonchalant expression as I did that. I handed it back to them with a poker face. But I was actually losing my mind, and felt like ducking Spider-Man lol. I stopped a lady at a crosswalk, because her underwear was hanging out of the back of her skirt. Looked like a mistake in the bathroom maybe. She stepped back off the crosswalk and about 2 seconds later a vehicle making a left turn at high speed smashed into parked cars right next to where she would have been standing. She would have been dead. I hid my mate in the nutsack with a tennis ball from across a football field once. Waitressing in college, I was carrying a huge tray of dirty dishes from the dining room to the kitchen down a little hallway. I slipped on some water, went down hard on my butt but managed to keep the tray perfectly level and didn't spill a thing. Not a major achievement, but kept me from having to clean for the next half hour. Accidentally did a full 360 in my car while driving down an icy road in the winter. Nearly shat myself while watching the telephone pole getting closer, but I saved the spin and kept driving along like I meant to do it. Accidentally corrected a skid when I lost control of my car on an icy road. I hit my brakes too hard and noticed my car started to drift to the left. Instinctively, I let off the gas and turned my steering wheel left into the drift, and my car went back to driving in a straight line. My dad accidentally had the best acid trip of his life at a Grateful Dead concert. I'm old. My dad is old. This happened way back. At age 18. My dad had to wear a body cast due to surgery for his scoliosis. His bud has heard of a Grateful Dead concert a couple towns over in California, and they invited him along. My dad was laid flat in the back of an old Studebaker station wagon for the ride. When they arrived, my dad's buddies asked him to hide the hits of paper acid in his body cast so they could be discreet, since all of them had been arrested for possession prior. My dad obliged and all was going well for a bit. Once the Grateful Dead started playing, my dad was dancing around best he could and began to sweat. Cue the paper acid being absorbed into his system and suddenly hairs tripping balls at a once in a lifetime concert. One time I was driving a kid's bike in small circles. So I went a bit too tight on my circle, ended up horizontal with my bike, ending up with just the side of the pedal touching the ground. Did a full 360 turn, then popped back up like it was some 1000/1000 difficulty BMX move or SOMESH#T. Like, is that even a move for BMX tricks? Not sure, but I did it. Completely on accident, but still. Threw a paper ball into the teacher's mug instead of the paper bin. I peaked that day in 7th grade. I accidentally caught an interception in high school and scored a touchdown. I was just as surprised to catch it as everyone else, since I was just crossing over, and the next thing I know I see the football flying over me. I instinctually reached up and caught it, and the only thing in my head at that point was run, so I booked it and got a 60-yard touchdown. I had headphones in walking downtown a busy street. A kid almost hit me with his bike coming down the driveway, so I stopped it by the handlebars. The mom came running down the driveway, and I was thinking, oh great, a Karen. After taking my headphones out, she thanked me in a panic for stopping her son from flying into the street as a car passed by. Never noticed it drive by. Edit. Thank you for so many upvotes and awards. Bought someone a Coke without looking at it, and it had their name on it. We were playing a game of dodgeball, and since there were too much people on the benches, the coach decided to add a rule. Anyone who can throw the ball directly into the basketball goal, spelling, can immediately deliver everyone. I had one of the balls in hand when he said that, and the moment he signaled the game to continue, I threw the ball randomly, because I have the worst aim ever, and it somehow went straight into it. I never managed to pull it off a second time, but boy was I proud for the entirety of that day. I hurdled a little girl, maybe 4 or 5, and her golden retriever on my rollerblades, and nailed the landing. No idea how I jumped that high and stayed in the air that long. Neither of us were paying attention. She'd just stepped onto the sidewalk, and I had tunnel vision going, and was only looking at the upcoming sidewalk a few feet in front of me. After I landed, I asked if she was okay, and she just yelled, "Woo!" When I was a kid, my cousins and I were outside, and they were playing catch with a football. I was sitting on a chair not really paying attention. Stretched out my arm to stretch, and at the same time, my cousin missed the ball when it came at him. I stretched out my arm, and next thing I know I've caught it perfectly without even looking, with my non-dominant hand, might I add. Was playing a local version of dodgeball as a high schooler. I sucked at throwing the ball. I have some sort of issue with my rotator cuff and can't throw overhand, and the school's star baseball pitcher, who was 3 grades above me, mocked me for all to enjoy. I had a little rage moment and sidearmed the ball at him, totally expecting it to hit the ground as I stormed off. Instead, the ball flew directly at his nuts. It had that nice indoor tennis thump. Great impact with real good inertia, and he groaned in pain. Target shooting at a friend's house. He wasn't having much luck with his new rifle, so of course I was giving him shit big time. He got a bit frustrated, handed the rifle to me, and said, "If you can talk all that shit, here you do better than I did." He told me to shoot the bowling pin that hangs by twine on the left. I sarcastically replied, "I'll shoot that bitch down." By taking out the string, I put it up to my shoulder, aimed for the center of the bowling pin, and pulled the trigger. By some freak chance I hit the twine and the bowling pin dropped. I was celebrating, because I honestly had not aimed at the twine. He was a bit salty until I told him that I have no fucking idea how I hit that string, because I wasn't even aiming for it, lol. I got angry, so I crumpled up a receipt and threw it at the wall. It bounced off and landed in a vase on the counter. I stopped in my tracks and thought, well, I can't be mad after witnessing that. I was shit-faced / rollin' last Saturday night out at the bars, and heard someone screaming inside this cookie joint at like 2 AM. So I drunkenly ran in, because from the window it looked like an old friend of mine, and I thought maybe something was wrong. I get inside and decide I want to just surprise him by running up and hugging the ducking shit out of him from behind. So I wrap my arms around him and scream, "Guess whom a third ducker?" All of a sudden, the few other people in this cookie shop run over and tackle us to the ground. Him beyond ducked up. So I just lay there with my arms locked around my friend while people are on top of us. Someone then shouts, "I got his gun." Yep. Not only was this guy not my friend, but he was in fact robbing this place. I had just drunkenly stopped a ducking robbery. Apparently when I hugged him and shouted, "Guess who?" he got so scared that he dropped his gun, allowing the other people to rush in and subdue him. Told my parents I would take the dog I picked up on the side of the road to the shelter after the 3-day weekend. I think it was Labor Day. Forgot to take her on the morning they opened back up, and somehow she accidentally wound up living with us for 10 amazing years until she passed. Hit 1,000 tickets when my head was turned talking to my sister. We were in a small arcade at a bowling alley. Jumped off a swing, did a flip in the air, and fell on my stomach. I was taking a tour of one of the US government buildings. I believe the Capitol, but I'm not sure. During a school trip, during the tour, the guide showed us a chandelier and asked if anyone knew how much it was worth. Flippantly, I answered something like 4.7 million, like I already knew the answer. Turns out, it was the correct answer. The tour guide said, sounds like someone's been doing his research. None of my friends believed me when I told them that I hadn't already known the answer. I believed me though. I was a lifeguard on the ocean. I was having a pretty shit day, and on top of it my lunch was postponed an hour. I headed up the beach to the nearest hotel to eat. As I was leaving the restaurant, I heard a crowd of people screaming near the pool. As I came down the stairs towards, I saw a young child floating face down in the water. I immediately pulled the kid out and gave rescue breathing until the EMT could arrive. The next day the parents walked down to my stand to thank me. They were originally told by their doctors they couldn't have children, but a few years later were blessed with this young boy, their only child. The mother told me I was their guardian angel that day. I'm not a very religious person, but this story still gives me goosebumps knowing that I was the right person in the right place at the right time for that boy. I started off angry about my lunchtime change, but this was the outcome. Close bracket. Christmas party at a friend's new apt. She'd made the place lovely. After her return from Italy, she set up her first adult Christmas tree. After dinner it's time for pumpkin pie and hot drinks. I'm getting my tea. From across the room I see someone accidentally brushed past the tree, and it begins to wobble and spin, heading for a fall with all of her hand-blown Italian ornaments on it. Somehow I cross the room, unspin the tree, set it back in its proper place with all of its ornaments intact, and never spilled any tea. Survived long enough to retire and collect a pension. Talked to 6 police officers on acid. I forgot I'd taken acid, and they seemed friendly, so I approached them and asked them if I could really only get to the train station using the escalator, cause my dog hates those. One of the officers started asking me questions about the dog, breed, age, etc, but it was my friend's dog and I'm not a big dog person, so I didn't know. Thankfully that wasn't at all suspicious to them, and they explained the obvious to me, that it wasn't possible to get to the station without the escalator. Duh. When the dog and I got to the top of the stairs, it finally dawned on me that it just talked to a crap ton of officers on acid, voluntarily, and I felt badass and also open-minded, as in, not from a police-friendly community. I was also very happy that the police officers had been so nice to me and that I learned something about the dog. I was making eggs for breakfast one morning. I cracked the first egg and threw the shell over my shoulder into the sink. I did this 3 more times and each shell landed directly in the previous shell, forming a 4-egg shell tower. Shit was nuts. Drunkenly invested money into stocks. Made back triple that money. Quit smoking. I was actually allergic to our cats, but didn't figure it out until I had quit for 6 months. I never went back. When I was about 14 over 15 I was rushing down the stairs and tripped about 7 or 8 steps from the bottom, going into complete freefall for a moment. To avoid an extremely painful tumble, I instinctively reached out with my arm and happened to grab the newel post, the end bit of the banister, with my hand at the same time that one of my feet only just managed to make brief contact with a step. The momentum then swung my entire body around the newel post. My foot lost contact with the step again. Then when I finally came to a stop I had landed firmly on both feet and didn't have a single scratch on me. One of the scariest moments of my life. It's either that or the time I gave my brother-in-law bull in a cup for Christmas, based on a long-running joke we had. I honestly picked good presents. After trying it out for a good while and having no luck, he got frustrated and jokingly said it was broken. To make him feel better, I grabbed it off the floor and said it took practice and that nobody ever succeeds at getting the ball in the cup right away. To prove my point, I had a go myself and nailed it on my first try. Neither of us really knew what to say. Was playing a game of beer pong and randomly threw a bottle cap and hit the enemy's ball straight out of the air. There was a lot of confusion. I felt pretty damn awesome in that moment. My husband and I were driving by a small college, and he noted a sign advertising an upcoming conference on extrasensory perception. I responded, "Yes, and you don't even have to pre-register. They already know you're coming." My first, last, and only perfect funny. Threw a grape across the lunchroom, and it landed in assistant principal's mouth as she was talking to a teacher. BTW, my lunchroom is at least 100 feet long. In a parking lot, a group of 3 strangers approached my friend. One guy was mad at life and tried to start an unprovoked fist fight with my friend. The 2 other guys went to surround him. I didn't know what to do, so I grabbed them by their collars. They pushed me toward the back of this old school American car where I jumped onto the back bumper because I had nowhere else to go. The springs on that old car lifted both of them off of the ground. They must have thought I had done it myself. They then looked a little frightened. They then got their friend and quickly left. When I had to put up my mask, I threw it onto my drawer from my bed, which is across my room. I'm lazy AF, and my mask landed right on the top left handle hanging there. I even threw it with my left hand, even though I'm actually right-handed. Once cut a fly in half while in flight. Pretty big housefly annoying me while prepping dinner, and in my anger I sliced at the fly only for it to fall to ground in pieces. Had to wash the knife afterwards though. Uncle was firing aerial bombs in a homemade PVC pipe. It tipped and shot at the house. Straight for family. I roundhouse kick the firework back into the yard, saving my sister. All the time during football, I dove to tackle receiver, and in doing so, tipped ball to the corner. Both got praise as it looked like I knew what I was doing. The team never saw I tackled the poor receiver laying on ground as I heard cheering, and thought he had it. The family never saw I was really just trying to block the firework from hitting sister. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.